There is a moment in sport when you realize you are watching something that has never happened before. Not something unlikely, not something surprising, something that doesn't fit inside the story the game has been telling for 100 years. Something that makes you sit back, stare at the screen, and whisper, "Wait, is this actually happening?" For Brazil, that moment came on a humid Sunday afternoon in East Rutherford, New Jersey. 79 minutes played. The scoreboard reads 0-0. Norway and Brazil locked together in a World Cup round of 16 match that feels like it could tip either way. Except there's a man in a white shirt who has spent 79 minutes lurking at the edge of everything, barely touching the ball, seemingly invisible, seemingly irrelevant. And then Andreas Schelderup whips a cross in from the left, and Erling Haaland rises. He rises above Gabriel Magalhães, Arsenal's centre-back, one of the best defenders on the planet, rises above him like he doesn't exist, and powers a header into the corner of the net. 1-0 Norway. 11 minutes later, Schelderup finds him again. Edge of the box. Haaland doesn't hesitate. A left-footed drive, low, precise, arrowed past Alisson Becker, one of the greatest goalkeepers alive, into the bottom corner. As if this is a training session. As if Brazil are not Brazil. 2-0 Norway. Neymar pulled one back from the penalty spot deep in stoppage time. It didn't matter. Brazil, 5 World Cup titles, the most decorated football nation on earth, were going home. Knocked out in the round of 16, their earliest exit since 1990. And the man who did it? A 25-year-old Norwegian with 7 goals in 6 games, from a country that hadn't even qualified for a World Cup in 28 years. This is the story of the most extraordinary individual performance in World Cup history. And this is the story of why, in the summer of 2026, one man has turned the entire football world upside down. Norway is not a football country, not in the way Brazil is, or Germany, or Argentina. Those nations breathe football from birth. Kids dream in it. Parents argue about it. Norway has skiing. Norway has fjords and oil money and one of the highest standards of living on the planet. Football is something they play, but it has never been the national religion. Their World Cup record tells you everything. 3 qualifications in their entire history. Their best result, a round of 16 appearance at France 1998. And then, nothing. 28 years of near misses. 2 entire generations of Norwegian fans who grew up watching their team fail to qualify while the rest of the world competed. And then they got Erling Haaland. Here's the number that tells you everything. Haaland has now scored in 14 consecutive competitive international matches for Norway. 27 goals across that run. More goals than games at international level. 62 in 54 appearances. That is not a hot streak. That is not form. That is a statistical impossibility wearing boots. Before this World Cup, people questioned whether Haaland could do it on the international stage the way he does it for Manchester City. Maybe he needed Pep Guardiola designing spaces for him. Maybe without Kevin De Bruyne feeding him, he was just a very good striker, not a transformative one. He now has 7 World Cup goals in 6 matches. Level with Lionel Messi. Level with Kylian Mbappé. The greatest Golden Boot race the tournament has ever produced, and the kid from Brine, a town of 11,000 people, is right in the middle of it. After beating Brazil, Haaland said something that stopped me cold. He said, "I dreamt of playing in the World Cup with Norway, but I never expected to win against Brazil. I thought it was not possible to do some things, but I guess I was wrong." He thought it wasn't possible, and then he made it possible anyway. To understand why Norway beating Brazil feels so seismic, you have to understand what Brazil brought to this tournament. They hadn't won a World Cup since 2002. 24 years of heartbreak for a nation that defines itself through football. So they hired Carlo Ancelotti, the most successful club manager in Champions League history, to finally end the drought. It was a statement. Brazil was done with near misses. And it worked for a while. They survived their group. They looked dangerous. Vinicius Jr. was electric. And Neymar, making what everyone assumed would be his final World Cup, lurked on the bench as a super sub. A living legend, bookending his career on the biggest stage. He became only the second Brazilian to score at 4 different World Cups, after Pelé. But then Norway's goalkeeper Ørjan Nyland saved Bruno Guimaraes' first-half penalty. Then Endrick, the teenager tipped as Brazil's next great hope, got through one-on-one with Nyland and poked it wide. Then Haaland scored 2, and it was over. What made it devastating was not just the result, it was the pattern. Brazil have now been knocked out by European opposition in 6 consecutive World Cups. 6. That isn't bad luck. That is something structural, a crack inside Brazilian football that Ancelotti, with all his genius, could not fix in 18 months. And Nyland, a goalkeeper playing for Burnley, who had no business being the best player on a pitch containing Vinicius Jr. and Neymar, was the man who held Brazil at bay. He saved the penalty. He denied Vinicius. He clawed away shots that had no right being stopped. He even somehow kept out a deflection off his own defender that was heading into the net. Norway didn't just beat Brazil. They outplayed them. They had 66% possession against the five-time world champions. They controlled the midfield. Martin Odegaard orchestrated. Patrick Berg ran all day. And when it mattered, when the cross came in, when the ball dropped at the edge of the box, Haaland did what Haaland does. Now pull back and look at the full picture of this World Cup, because Norway's story is just one thread in the most chaotic tournament football has ever produced. Germany, four-time world champions, the greatest knockout team the sport has ever built, were eliminated in the round of 32 by Paraguay. Germany had never lost a World Cup penalty shootout in their entire history, a streak stretching back to 1976. Paraguay ended it in a single afternoon. The Netherlands, three-time World Cup finalists, were knocked out in the same round by Morocco. Their third consecutive World Cup exit on penalties. 3 in a row. That's not misfortune. That's a crisis. The United States, hosting the tournament on home soil, were demolished 4-1 by Belgium in the round of 16. Their own players called the performance bewildering. Brazil, sent home by Norway. The giants are falling, and the teams replacing them are teams that, 4 years ago, most casual fans would not have been able to name. Morocco are in the quarterfinals again. Egypt are there, having beaten Australia on penalties. Paraguay pushed France to 3-1 before bowing out. Colombia are through. Norway are through. The 2026 World Cup expanded to 48 teams. Critics said it would dilute the quality, that the early rounds would be filled with mismatches. Nobody is saying that now. The expansion didn't dilute the tournament. It democratized it. More paths for the unexpected. More space for smaller nations to build momentum. And the giants, used to sleepwalking through the early rounds, suddenly had to face real competition from the first knockout game. Some of them cracked under the weight of it. And now, the quarterfinals. Norway against England, in Miami. England came through their bracket with purpose. They beat Croatia, they beat DR Congo, they put Mexico out in what many are calling the best game of the tournament so far. Harry Kane has 6 goals. Jude Bellingham has been the most complete midfielder in the competition. England are serious, and they have to stop Haaland. Nobody has managed it yet. Not Ivory Coast. Not Brazil with the best defensive partnership in South American football. Nobody has found a way to neutralize the simple, terrifying reality that Haaland needs 30 touches in a game, just 30, and can still finish it with 2 goals. Against Brazil, he had fewer touches than some substitutes, fewer touches than most midfielders get in a single half, and yet he ended the game as the decisive player. 2 goals. 2 moments of pure, predatory intelligence. The kind of finishing that doesn't look like skill. It looks like inevitability. His coach, Stale Solbakken, said he wouldn't swap Haaland for any player in the world. Not Messi, not Mbappé, anyone. That sounds like hyperbole. After watching him dismantle Brazil, it doesn't feel like it. Here's the thing about Haaland that people miss when they call him a machine or a cheat code. He is free. Most players, at a World Cup, feel the weight of it. You can see it in their touches, their hesitation, the half-second of doubt before they shoot when they should just shoot. The World Cup is the heaviest stage in sport. It breaks people. It freezes the greatest talents on earth at the exact moment they need to be at their best. Haaland does not carry that weight. Or if he does, he turns it into fuel. Every knockout round he scores. Every time the moment demands the impossible, he casually delivers it, and then looks vaguely surprised that people are surprised. His teammate Schjelderup joked after the Brazil game, "We're all just happy that he's Norwegian and that he's playing for us." 5 million Norwegians are watching their team do things they were told could not be done. They have never been in a World Cup quarterfinal. Nobody predicted them to be here. The bracket didn't open up for them. They beat Ivory Coast. They beat Brazil, goal by goal, save by save, the hard way. And now they play England, under the Miami lights, with a place in the semifinals on the line. This World Cup has already shattered everything we thought we knew about football's hierarchy. Germany, gone. Netherlands, gone. Brazil, gone. The old certainties torn apart one by one. And standing in the middle of all of it, calm as anything, 7 goals, a Viking rowing celebration, and a cowboy hat from a shop in Dallas, is a 25-year-old from a country of fjords and ski slopes who has become the most talked-about athlete on the planet. Football has never seen a tournament like this, and it has never seen a player quite like him. Erling Haaland is just getting started.